And one. All right, people, you guys know what it is. The one and the only American Cholo podcast, broadcasting live there to you from North Hollywood, California. My name is Gil, and I am the American Cholo. I hope everybody's having a great, wonderful night. There's no football today. It's Tuesday, so you guys can have us in your home, enjoying the conversation. And today, our next guest is a published author, poet, and also a passionate and proud Native American. Please give a warm welcome to the one and only Jessa Calderon.
Awesh Coneja, thank you.
What's up, Jessa? How are you, man?
Good, how you doing?
We're doing all right, man. You ready or what?
I think so.
Let's run
Glad
it, man.
to be here with you.
So, where were you born and raised?
I was born and raised in the 818.
Man, from the Valle, I would have never known.
Yeah, born and raised. Grew up most of my life in Pacoima.
Okay, Pacas. Mm-hmm. And talk to me a little about, we want to get to know, who you are as a person, as your childhood and all that stuff, that way we can know where you're at now in life.
All right, well, I had some interesting experiences as a child, and it really led me to think that I had more comfort in hanging out with cholos than in the Catholic or Christian church.
All right.
So I grew up, my whole life with the gangsters.
Right, and the gangster scene.
Yep. And but being, a proud Native woman, I have my Mexican roots and I have my California Native American roots, which, yes, this was Mexico for 20 years in the 1800s, but prior to that, it was our traditional lands before the Spanish came. So I'm able to understand the two, my Mexican side and my California Native side. But because of the growing up as a Native youth, I was able to participate in ceremony and be with my Native side of the family that really helped me keep things in perspective. So even though I'd go get lost down the Cholo Trail, I also was able to have ceremony to ground me and be reminded of where I'm going to have to be when I'm much older. So then I took a hiatus from the Native American culture because I was to a point where I had seen so much darkness and heaviness that I got heavy into drinking and drugs.
Into the streets.
Yep. And yeah, just really, really dark places that I didn't think was fair to bring to my community. So I took it upon myself to keep a distance until...
So you brought it to my community.
Well, your community brought it to me, and I just jumped on in. No, but my mom, dad, everybody was raised. My dad was in the Club Freedom. I don't know if you're familiar with the Lowrider Club Freedom from way back when.
Way back in the days.
And then my mom was the president to a car club called Midnight Casuals.
Okay.
So, it's always been culture, like the Chicano-ism meets nativism. My mom would be rocking her mocks while she's in her meetings,
Dope. So they kept it alive in your life.
Yeah. So, grandfathers kind of having that pachuco-ness, we've always been here, So it's interesting because people, when they think of the Chicano lifestyle, they think just Mexican, right? And even there was a time when our grandparents were saying we're just Mexican for survival, because if it was noted that they were California Indian, they'd be dead. There was, a number on their heads. So this has always been how we were, just meshed into modern day society. But when people think of Native, they think of us as unicorns and fairy tales. Yeah,
that's there's an old Eddie Murphy, I think, joke or something that he was saying. I'm not sure exactly what it was, but he was saying something, or a comedian saying that, when have you ever seen a Native American in Sizzler?
Right.
Right. And it's yeah.
I was there.
Well, that's what I'm saying, because they say, so many people oppressed, but no, the Native Americans definitely top in this nation, at least, right?
Yeah.
Now, when you said you were a kid, you were going, doing the Native thing. What exactly were you doing that was, in the culture?
Well, we have different types of ceremonies out here, naming ceremonies, coming of age ceremonies. We would go up to North Dakota. I have a adopted grandfather who's since passed, but he was one of the first, he was the person who dreamt of the ghost dance and bringing it back. His name was Sammy Little Owl. So we'd go up to his Sundance, and I participated as being tree girl in the ceremony, participated in, cooking food other years, and just different ways that you contribute, to these ceremonies and community. And then as well as powwows, which isn't from California. We have the big times and the fiestas, and there's all these different names for them modern time. But in the 60s, when the people came over here for work and trade schools, and were forced out of their reservations into our cities, they brought with them the powwows.
Oh, they brought the tradition with them.
Their culture, right? And so we kind of merged in with them. And so I started dancing a modern style called Fancy Shaw, which was, I believe it was brought into society in the 1920s.
Now, what exactly what would be considered a powwow?
A powwow is, well, I know a lot of people have offense to that word. Like, don't say powwow, you're disrespecting. But that's not a native word, right?
Is that what the Europeans end up calling? These guys are having a powwow?
Europeans started that saying of a powwow, but we took it and embraced it.
Okay.
And so when we think of what a powwow is, we think of a social gathering, a Native American social gathering, where there's northern and southern, they call them northern and southern drums, and they sing their songs, and then you've got northern style and southern style dancers that go out to those songs and have their styles of dance.
Okay, so it's actually a powwow. You guys,
It's a powwow.
It's a powwow.
Yeah.
So now you're here, and you say when you're about 14, 15 years old, are you now more into the Cholo culture? Or are you?
Yeah.
She said, why do you say yeah?
Yeah,
Like,
but, because I just remember how much of a dark place I was in those times, And it was like I seen myself and everybody there.
and when you say dark, I mean, not without having to say exactly what it was. Like, what's a 15? Because a lot of people will sit there and say, man, you're 15 years old. How can you be in a dark place?
When I was 15, I actually had a giant cell tumor in my leg. It started when I was 11. And everybody kept saying, I was like, you know what, doc? It feels like I'm growing a baby in my leg. No, there's nothing wrong with her. 4 Advils a day, she'll be fine. And I do feel that I accumulated that tumor because of the darkness, because it was at the age of 4 that I got really traumatized. Okay. And then at the age of like 6, 7, seen some more trauma. 8, once again, a similar trauma to being 4. And then 16, once again, similar trauma to being 4. So I do believe now, looking back, how much I attracted that stuff and how much, before I even came into this world, my spirit wanted to grow spiritually by consuming all kinds of hardship that I can actually get through. So I did go through darkness. I did drop, into the drugs and alcohol, trying to run away from everything.
Right.
Until I finally learned how to face it and then become sober in doing, and facing it all.
And was there a certain specific date or time that you can, right now remember, which was the day they said, that's it, I'm getting sober?
Yeah, absolutely. It was February 7th, 2009 when I found out I was pregnant. No, it was 2010. Yeah.
Okay, so were you feeling like, am I pregnant? And you went to the doctor, or?
Well, you know what? I kept telling Patty, a friend of mine that I kept telling her, like, I just don't want to smoke weed no more. Like, I don't know what it is, and she's like, that's stupid. I don't know what's wrong with you. And then I wasn't drinking at the time. And my brother had passed, right? He knew I was going to get pregnant. He told my aunt, make sure that she promises you she won't do drugs and she won't drink. To which I promised her that I won't drink or do drugs. I said, maybe drink, but I don't promise I won't smoke weed because I'm not a liar, But he knew what was coming. And so 3 months after making that promise, I took one shot and was like, I'm just gonna take one shot, not a big deal. And I was with all my homeboys from the hood. They were all OGs, so I'm like, I'm safe, the OGs got me. And I take that one shot, threw me up for the night. Just, I was gone. And it wasn't like mentally, I was like, my stomach was hurting.
Your body was rejecting it.
It was rejecting it. And then I remember going to the bathroom and seeing something that my mom told me she remembers seeing when she was pregnant. It was this green stuff, right? And I was like, oh no. And my comadre's in my house doing her hair, and she's like, I told you, bitch, you're pregnant. And I'm flipping out, no, it's not true. But they dragged me to the doctors, and the doctor was like, pregnant. And that was the last day.
The new beginning of life was your child.
My son. And the crazy thing is, all my life, because I tend to fall into the spiritual aspect, even in my dark times, even kicking it with the homies, I was always intuitive. And there was something that was like, I'm going to die when I'm 22. Ooh. So August, I turned 22. September, my brother dies.
Oh, God, I'm sorry to hear
And
that.
I'm like, what is going on? Like, did Creator come to him and, like, give him a chance to take my place? Like, what's happening? And then it would be a couple months later, I'm pregnant. And then it was like, no, death for sure, because it was a complete rebirth. I went from being, like, just something totally different, you know. I'm like, there's parts of me that are still the same, you know, like I try to be in alignment, but I can get a little hood, you know. But I try to do better for my son. And so everything in me at that moment was like, I went from cussing up a storm to like apples and bananas and, you know, trying everything to show him, you know, the possibilities. And that included for me sobriety, because I didn't have that opportunity to see anybody, you know, really be like sober and doing things.
That's a new beginning in life.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool I mean, not cool that the whole thing happened, but it was pretty cool how you had that new beginning.
Me.
Right?
He blessed me.
Now, can you break down a little bit of, you know, when you said, you know, you got the Chicanoism, you got the natives. Are the natives of, let's say, the United States the same as the natives of, let's say, Mayans, Aztec type Indians?
See, I can't really answer that as a definite for everybody, right? Like, I can't even speak for my own community for a lot of things. I have to only speak for myself.
Nice.
But when folks from this side of the border try to put that separation through I call it a mental border, right? Because that didn't exist.
Right.
So for me, I say we are all related, because when you have relations with somebody, you're a relative, right? And we have people that traditionally were coming from one tip of that continent all the way to the other tip of the continent up past Canada, right? So in my opinion, that is a relative. And we didn't have no problems them coming in and going back, because people, if they settled because they fell in love. Other than that, they went back home. So in my opinion, yes, we are all related, we're all connected. And that border, it's a man-made, make-believe border that came way after colonization and has nothing to do with any indigenous peoples.
Now, do they have the same traditions, would you say, if you saw like somebody from south of the border doing dances, or when you see the dances, like you see a lot of the dances that come out and people have the native garb, is it somewhat the same, or is it also different?
You know what? We're all different, but there are many similarities. And I think I do have to just state really quick, when going back to the border, is all along Texas, Arizona, California, there are native nations that are separated by the border, but they're the exact same nation. And a border came through and separated families just like that. But unfortunately, sad to say, it's actually a lot of the people on the other side of the border that have been able to keep more of their culture than in America.
But you get Americanized over here.
We do.
You get Americanized. And also, the natives were just kind of placed in, you know, here's your piece of land. And
some, but see, like one of the nations that I do have in my bloodline, Tongva, which is the land we're on right now in North Hollywood.
So this is
Tongva's territory. Yeah.
Okay.
And I'll state it, we're not traditionally named Tongva. You know, we went by the names of our villages. And so it differs, and many of us have different villages, you know, that our families are from and connections. But in today, some people call themselves Gabrielino, which is the mission they were forced into. Some people call them Fernandino, which is the mission they were forced into.
Okay.
And then some people call themselves by whatever they choose to call themselves today. And all of it is okay.
Yeah, you're right, because they have that mission right here on Cahuenga. So there was actually, you know, a lot of Spaniards out here, you know, kind of pushing the Indians and making...
They would take them. So I have a song that's called Scars of a Warrior. They called us Mission Indians. And that song describes a lot of what happened here.
Now, a lot of people don't know what happened here. Can you explain to us, you know, when the Native Americans were here, and then, you know, back then it was the colonizers. We can go back and forth forever about that. What actually happened to the Native Americans over here when the Europeans started coming over?
Well, there was a lot of death happening before the Europeans stepped foot here, because their diseases got here before they did. So there was a lot of wipeout that happened prior to their, physical presence. They actually bypassed us and went to Mexico at some point, because we were burning traditional burns, right? And they saw what they call the Bay of Smoke, so they kept on going. And eventually, when they made their way back, they come to this beautiful, lush, green paradise, as they called it. And once they get over here, that's their job, is to colonize, right? It was the doctrine of discovery that gives them the right to just say, well, you don't practice our religion, so we're going to take you and do whatever we want. So it's not to say that they were doing everything under that doctrine discovery for, to abide by that doctrine, but they were doing some horrible things
absolutely.
with that name, right? Under that name, that title. And so I'll speak for my particular family is when they got here, the San Fernando Mission wasn't here yet. So if it was, we would be Fernandino, because our family is a little bit more like Santa Monica Mountains. So they get over to the Santa Monica Mountains and they take my 7-year-old grandfather from his mom and his dad, and they leave the parents and they take the kid to the mission and they separate the family. And that's what they end up doing, is separating families. And the goal is to get them young so that you can brainwash them and get them to believe anything that you say. And that's how they create their fantasy of, this is their land.
You start grooming them into believing the land and also the religion and everything that comes with it. And you try to erase them from their family's religion, right? So
my grandfather becomes, Prospero Dominguez, and he takes it on with, pretty much grace. And he gets some land that's in what people call now, it's a library, the Huntington Library. Him and another woman from his village, who they were like brother and sister, but they weren't brother and sister, but they looked out for each other. Her name was Victoria Reed. When she got married, it was Reed. She really looked out for him because she colonized well. I don't know how to say it, right? Like she took on to, they were both very smart and they knew how to make the system work for them. And so they both ended up getting land together, and she had the bigger plot of land and he had a smaller one within that Huntington Library.
Now, are you of the opinion that that America is pretty much a colonized nation and that the natives should get the land back? Because I know there's some natives that are really hardcore into that. And what's your opinion on that?
Well, to be honest, so I'm the director of Land, Water, and Climate Justice for Sacred Places Institute for Indigenous Peoples.
Okay.
So I'm like way over here on that spectrum.
Let's hear it.
So we actually have a fellowship that consists of some Chumash, Gabrielino, and Tongva, and Hashiman peoples, right? So we're taking these peoples to different areas where quote-unquote land backing is happening, and a lot of it is looking like land conservancies. Which is a beautiful thing. So it's not to say, I'm getting all these acres for me that I can have my farm and do all that. That'd be wonderful. But right now you have these conservancies that are starting to get an acre at a time or what have you. The goal is to really get sacred sites. That's the goal, is because we want to protect things, So for us, what we want to do is learn the legalities in modern day society and all their, BS propaganda and make it work for us so that we have title that we can care for and therefore have ceremony. Because what am I supposed to be across the street at this public park having a ceremony while all these people are walking up drunk taking pictures of me? Like, that's what it's been like for all these generations.
Right.
We have nothing. We've had nowhere to go. Churches don't want us doing ceremony in their places, right? Which some of them end up on our sacred sites. So yes, I support land back. I'll reiterate that it doesn't consist of kicking people off and sending them back to Europe, which would be phenomenal, but that's not good. That's not the case. Many of us have European blood running through our veins. So what do? Cut ourselves in quarters? Like, it's not going to happen.
Well, I'm glad you admit that, because there's a lot of times that the Native American community, and I'm sorry to put that as a whole, because I know people say, no, there's...
Yeah, we're all different.
Yeah, they're all different. But there's some that will sit there and just kind of will never admit that there's any European blood. They just pure natives, and that's actually big maturity, I would think, by you saying that. To kind of still speak on it, to make correlation with right now, even though we had the schedule for a few weeks, just recently you're having the war in Israel come about, right? And I made a small clip, I put it out there today, and some people got offended. And it was like this. I said, the best way to kind of explain to somebody with Israel, imagine we having a World War III, the United States loses, and then the New World Order, who's in power now instead of the UN, comes in there and says, all right, what are we going to do with America? And they say, hey, well, just like how they're doing in Israel, they're the original people. Well, the original people are natives.
Right.
Let's give them 70% of the land. Do you think America would go for that?
Right. No, absolutely not.
They would say no.
It's a fight. And so, yeah, I do stand in support of indigenous peoples all around the world.
But that could be a tough thing to sell because a lot of times it seems like what's mostly the news media. If you don't if you criticize Israel's policy, you're criticizing Israel's policy. You're not being anti-Semitic. You're not criticizing the Jewish faith. You're criticizing
It's a system.
It's a system, but it's a tough system to even try to get close to winning.
Right.
So how are you guys trying to fight this to get some of these lands back and have your place?
Well, it's been a real big blessing is as of late, a lot of people are starting to feel something deep inside of them that wants to do right. Right. And a lot of these peoples are people who have, I guess, lived life with that silver platter, if you will, and they've had, generations upon generations of land that's just been passed on and passed on. And as they start recognizing the truth in history, they find themselves reaching out to us and saying, how can I make things right? How can I contribute in different ways? And so there was one person who took that and said, I want to give you guys 2 acres. And so there is a Tongva Land Conservancy that received 2 acres for that reason.
Oh, so that's cool. That means you guys are making some headway.
Yeah.
Now, a tattoo. Explain to me. I've seen different versions of it. So
Yeah.
what exactly does that stand for?
So everybody has their own name for it, right? So I try my hardest not to call it a tattoo, because I know, but I'm.
It's a taka, Holmes.
Well, what I call it is a moch.
A moch?
A moch, and that's the Chumash word for basically design. And a moch can be anywhere on your
Okay.
body, right? And so traditionally, here in Southern California, I'll speak, because we've had it all, all of California traditionally did their moch, whatever their word was for it, right? And so for us, it was a coming of age thing. So when you first have your moon cycle, you would go into ceremony and have this beautiful ceremony that they'd gift you with, honor you with, if you will. And then one of them would be the moch.
It's almost like the original quinceañera.
Yes, exactly what it was. And so there's a whole tie to that too, the tradition of why we have quinceañeras. But so with the moch, unfortunately, we lost a lot of the major history within it. But we do know that there would be a moch, a design that would basically, you look at this young woman and you know that her father was like, the captain or the chief, if you will, right? You see another woman and you know that her position was in the medicine realm. And so every moch would be either something that showed what family you stem from or what your position in life really is.
It was like the stripes they would do in the military, but
Yes.
But let me ask you this: did you get the moch with a moch machine or with a tattoo machine?
No. So what happened was I learned how to do it with the traditional hand poke style. And a lot of the women, we were having meetings in the Chumash community, and a lot of the women were adamant they were going to do it, which we do have a judge who did it. And it was like, okay, if she does it, it's all good.
And that was not too long ago, right?
It wasn't that long ago. It was a couple years back. And so they were all on me, Jessa, we're ready. And I'm like, I'm not ready to.
Yeah, that's major.
It's your face,
It's your face.
So I finally said, okay, I'm going to sit in ceremony with myself, right? And I'm going to be here, and as I pray over this, I'm going to do my moch. So I was alone, which what we try to do is have the community there, but I was very intimidated, very timid, so I did it on my own, in my own ceremony, and then once I completed it, and I looked in the mirror, and I was like, I didn't mess it up.
But you did this by yourself?
I did this myself.
No way.
Yes.
No, I'm impressed.
So then I reached back to the community and said, okay, I'm ready. And so since I've been doing the women's moch.
So the mulch now. So now, when you did your 2 and you have the dots here, does that mean anything to you?
Yes, it's my position. And so I do have more that I'm supposed to add on to. I just...
the higher rank you get, the...
Well, no, traditionally, there was a design that I prayed over that came to me.
Okay.
And I have the whole thing. I've just been really still intimidated to finish it. It's really intimidating to do your own, and I kind of grown to like it just as it is, but it's not complete.
Do men get that at all? Or is
Men do get moch, and it might be in different places in their body or face.
Now,
Not necessarily their
Do Native Americans ever get, like, let's say, I'll call it mulch of their bodies and all that?
Yeah, but again, only speaking for myself because every community is different, but for sure in the state of California, everybody was at some point having a moch somewhere on their body.
Matthew Perales, $10 super chat. Appreciate that, man. He asked, can she share some history on, is it Kunash Parker, if possible.
I don't know who that is.
I don't know. Maybe.
Quana?
Okay.
Quana Parker?
Yeah, do you know who Quana Parker is? All right, he stumped us right now. He's gonna be like, "You're not Native American."
I know.
you gotta be.
Is she from California?
I don't know. He'll tell us in a minute. So, you did this. You woke up the next morning, and what'd you say when you saw your face?
I felt like I was complete.
Okay.
I felt like, and everybody who's ever known me, well, anybody who has anything nice to say, let's say, has said it feels like you've always had that. Like, I can't not see you without it now.
Yeah, well, it's become something that now, it looks very much normal. I think maybe a couple years back, people were kind of looking at it, but to me, it looks much better than a damn tattoo of a kiss or any way out stuff.
And you know, my mom has it too. I did hers.
Oh, right on. So,
did hers.
Is your son gonna get it?
No.
Why not?
I mean, if he wants me to do a design on his body, I just don't foresee. As far as I know, our men didn't necessarily have anything on their chins like this, so I don't really foresee him having.
So, are you also guiding your son into the Native American ways, or is he kind of doing his own thing right now?
A little bit of both. He just had his coming of age ceremony. He just turned 13.
Okay, so how is that coming of age? What do they call it? What do you guys do?
Again, everybody's different, so every family gets to carry on their traditions. But you basically are being tested, right, for your stamina, your strength, your endurance, and all of these things. We kept a fire for him for 4 days. He didn't eat for the 4 days. And then for myself, what I had him do was he cleansed in the stream on his last day, right, in this clean stream that we have access to. And he was to dunk 4 times, and on that 4th dunk is when he emerges as the man that he chooses to be.
And how many people are involved in this? The whole.
Well, modern day society, it's a little bit harder, right? We did have on the final day where everybody came to be with him, and so I made it for a Saturday. So everything else had to be during the week, right? So he would have men that would come in on certain days and spend some time with him, some hours, and do different things with him that I had nothing to do with. It was just between the men, and then there was some things that I participated, especially like cooking this big meal for the community who's coming in, and we call it a feed.
What do you guys cook?
Different strokes for different folks, right? And so I wasn't traditional in any way. I did a lot of fruit dishes, and then I made for my son, because he didn't eat for all this time, right? So we made the barbecue sliders. Okay. And it was barbecue chicken.
Hey, those are native barbecue sliders to you.
I mean, it was made by a native woman, right?
So, what is that called? Something for the young man is just coming of age, or they actually?
I gotta call my mom, because yes, they do have a name for it, and she knows what it is, but I don't have the name.
And when the young lady's coming of age, is it kind of the same thing, or is it?
It's different. The men get put through the challenges.
Damn,
the women are like, oh, you're loved and you're beautiful and you're so sacred, and we're honoring you because you're a life giver, and it's like you're just pampered, and it's got to be nice. I didn't have one, but back in the days, they were treated with so much love.
So what is if you go back to the roots of the Native American culture, what is the culture all about?
Again, I can't speak for everyone, right?
But
I will say that there's writings when the Spaniards came here in their mission era and everything, they were stumped. They were like, when I understood them better is when I read that, is they weren't racist. They were never loved. They had the dark ages back there. What do we expect them to do over here, But they were like baffled that the mothers were so loving to their children. They didn't want to give them up. They fought for their kids, and they loved and adored their babies. And these people are like, what kind of foreign-ish is this? It was just so foreign for them. So we've, over here in Southern California, my peoples, we've been loving peoples. Yeah, you go to war for certain things, but for the majority, you're loved and you're in community with all the neighbors. We had ceremony together, all of us, in different times of the year.
We got another question from Mr. Juan Gonzalez, $20 super chat. Appreciate that. To the serious question to her, why are most native in Pala, down from Temecula, California, so rude and disrespectful to our Mexican raza? Hey.
So I can't speak for them because I'm not of those nations, but what I can say is I don't believe that everybody is, because there's a lot of them that are mixed with Mexican roots to this day. A lot of the women actually end up dating cholos. So that's not necessarily true. And if the men are, that's probably because they're bitter that their ladies are with, Mexicans. But I can't speak for them.
Yeah, but I think that's in every ethnicity, every race, every nationality. You can. Oh, it's like saying pretty much, why are Chicanos against the compas or the paisas sometimes?
Right. It happens.
It happens.
There's a-holes in every community, right?
And then you get, why are the Mexicans horrible to the Central Americans? Why are the Central Americans horrible to the Venezuelans?
Yeah. Why does Aslan keep trying to take our ancestral land when it was Mexico for 20 years?
There you go. That's it's a pecking order, but yeah. I can't sit there and blame everybody for something somebody does.
Yeah.
So you're a published writer.
I am.
So how did you get into writing?
It's funny. I always knew I was going to be a massage therapist. Since I was 8 years old, I came out of a ceremony with myself and was like, I'm going to be a massage therapist and an entertainer. And somehow I knew how to write, and I knew how to sing, and I knew how to put my hands on people and help them feel better instantly at 8 years old. So that led me into doing massage school as soon as I turned 18. I'm in massage school. I'm probably stoned out of my mind, but I'm studying. And all of a sudden I get this download, right? I'm 18 years old. And this download just says, you're going to write a book. You're going to write down these 7 names. And so I start writing these names down. And it was after I wrote them that I looked at it and I was like, I'm going to write a book and these are the characters. Closed my notebook, went on to live life, disappeared for a while, and then decided that I would go live with my mom when I had the baby. Everything good?
Somebody screaming out there?
Sounds like a dog. So my mom asked me to move in with her after my brother passed, right? So they can help with the baby. And I started going through my old stuff, found that notebook, and was like, oh, shoot, I was going to write a book. So now I'm saving money to buy a computer. 2 years passed, I buy the computer, and I just start writing, waking up 5 o'clock in the morning just to spend hours writing this book. And, life happens. So you put it down, you get back to it, you put it down, you get back to it.
And so what was the actual inspiration for this one?
My life.
Okay, so tell me about it.
So this is about a group of girls that are growing up.
Show the people.
Where are we at?
There you go.
We have a group of girls here that are growing up in Pacoima. And they're all native. And this is the beautiful thing, because like I said about that Aslan thing, and I grew up around all the Mexicanos and people from Honduras and all these different areas that a lot of them would tell me as a kid, I wish I was Indian, I wish I was native, and most of them darker than me, right? I'm like, what makes you think that you're not? Because colonization did a number on you? It doesn't mean that you're not, you just forgot. So in this book, there are women and men that I bring in the beginning to the end in their lives, right? And so it shows how they have roots from Mexico and what native nation in that, village or, state that they're from, what native nation they actually are. Then they come over here and, they're growing up in this apartment. So I'm bringing their families in the mix, right? As you see, one of these girls has a basket hat on her head, but she's in a lowrider, right? And the other one's Pachuca style. And the other one's got a braid, and the other one with her hair down. They're all homegirls, and this is life. In LA, what a lot of people don't recognize is Native people were here the whole time, and a lot of the people who say that they're Chicano or Mexicano or other nations that came from that other side of the border, in fact, are Native. And so I pull those ties into this book to whoever's reading this have that insight that, you know what, F that colonial border, we're indigenous, period. And I'm hoping that this book gives pride to that, because colonization made us hate ourselves, right? Like my grandparents refused to say that they were Native in public. In-house, it was another story.
Really?
And it was don't say anything, right? And then they go out and I'm Mexican, don't kill me. It really was that. And so for so many generations, people just thought in California, it's only Mexican people, but that was a survival mechanism.
Now, I hear that with the colonizer thing. I haven't heard it lately, but I would hear it a lot. Like, Gil, you're just a bootlicker. You're this and that because of, certain political views that I have. Mm-hmm. Like myself, I don't consider myself Native. I mean, I consider myself just a guy from North Hollywood or whatnot, right? Is that a bad thing in your eyes?
Because, this is what I try to explain to folks who are so adamant it has to be one way. Creator blessed us all with a mind to think for ourselves, right? Sovereignty. You can't tell me how to think. You can try to force me into your beliefs. And the only way that I can tell you I believe your way is when you instill fear in me, right? But even then, I can still think how I want to think inside my head. So everybody is welcome to think and feel how they think and feel. It doesn't make them wrong necessarily, as long as you're not hurting anybody.
Right. Now, if the Europeans would have never came to America, how do you think America would be today?
Beautiful, clean, pristine water, trees still abundant. There would be no issues with, bears getting hit by cars, and things would be so much different. We understood the reciprocity.
I think we would be Asians, or we would be Russians, because somebody would have took us over.
Somebody always has some kind of power hungry.
Well, but that's also been since the beginning of time. Since the beginning of time, I mean, I think this is what happens a lot of times. And then with respect to you, Jessa, I think we romanticize a lot of how life was, and I'm sure there was some beautiful moments as that, but I think there was also some times where other nations came in there and attacked, and
especially in areas where things are less, like California, we had everything we needed always. We were in abundance, so it wasn't an issue in that aspect. But like the Vikings came, they married in, they had relations, they went back home, they traded, they did everything, but they didn't have the necessary means to want to conquer this land. A lot of people came and traveled. We've had relations with the Polynesian folks, right? The Hawaiians, the people from New Zealand, the Maori peoples. We've had relations for generations upon generations before colonization. And none of us were colonizing each other. We were chilling and trading and singing and sharing food with each other. So
living the dream.
I mean, in my idea, and a lot of us still keep that up to the best of our ability, but it's hard. There's a lot of times, hey, the Maori are coming to have ceremony with us, come down. And it's like, I can't, I have to work, right? I have to survive.
Juan Gonzalez, $20 super chat. Another serious question. Is there a native dating site where you can meet up with natives, gorgeous ladies asking for a friend?
I really don't know, to be honest, but I know Francine tried to put me on a dating site one time, and I'm like, I don't want to. She's like, just do it. And I scroll, and my cousin's right there, and I delete. I'm not doing this. So he right away was like, what are you doing on here? I'm like, no, I'm not on here.
No, what are you doing on here, huh?
So I don't know. I imagine, just like I said, we're everywhere. So go on any dating site. Just maybe not Christian Mingles. I don't know.
When I think of natives of like Mexico and all that, I think of more like isn't like the Oaxacan people, smaller. They keep their features. You can kind of see that those are the natives, because I think in Mexico, is there really a big push like there is in America for natives, and like kind of trying to get land back and stuff like that? Or no?
Oh my gosh. They have the same issues we have. And again, I can't speak for everybody over there, but I do have relations with the Kumeyaay, because the Kumeyaay are on this side of California border and on the other side, and they're being just separated by that border. And the Kumeyaay Nation have the same fight that we do. The government has no respect for them, always trying to, delete them from history. And so they're constantly having to battle for their rights and their sovereignty.
And who the Kumeyaay, you say?
The Kumeyaay Nation.
And that's in Mexico?
And California.
Okay.
Yeah, it's separated by the border, but same nations.
Same nations. Is there a dog out there dying, Chris?
It might be.
You better go out there and check, Chris.
He's trying to get his 15 minutes on American Cholo.
Did he stop? You heard him, right?
He's just coming and going.
He's talking about the tribal lands. Hey, you dabbled in music before as well, right?
I still do music. I record myself, and I'm mixing my own stuff now.
Okay, what kind of music are you doing?
Well, I actually just started doing some music with a friend. We're hip hop and R&B.
Okay.
I would love to do country. So Louis the Singer, what's up?
Oh, Louis the Singer from Texas, right?
Yeah. And I have a couple friends that I'm like, I'm trying to get into the country a little bit, because I love songwriting, right? That's why it's Jessa_songwriter.
Right.
Because,
on IG.
Yeah, that's my thing. But writing in general also. But it was just easy to be a rapper, right? Because it was like I'm writing poetry, I'm watching all the homies, bust their flows, and I'm like, easy. It's a poem over a beat. Like,
Okay.
let's go. So traditionally, I've been a rapper for all these years.
What was the rap name?
Jessa Calderon. But back in the day, I was known as Lady Sparks.
No, Lady Sparks.
Lady
All right.
Sparks.
From Pacas.
From Pacoima.
There you go. Pacoima. You like that, right?
Yeah.
So have you rapped with anybody from Pacoima?
Yes.
Who you rap with over there?
Well, my brother Frank Figueroa, also known as Giant, he introduced me to Sleepy Malo.
Oh, Big Sleepy. Shout out Sleepy Malo.
And I was a huge fan. I actually remember, and I'm sure I've told him this, but sitting on the curb and listening to his music and being like, I'm going to work with him one day. And then Giant taking me to his house and being like, sing for him, show him what you got. And like I sang and busted a flow like it was nothing, which I can't do these days. I just used to be like the freestyle queen back then. Is it still happening?
You're right back at the fact.
Every time he hears my voice, am I like the fingers to the chalkboard? So I met Sleepy and became the first lady to his crew, the Fearless Crowd, and then dabbled in that for a little bit. But, abusive relationships happen, and I had to call Sleepy and explain to him why I couldn't participate anymore because basically I was in this abusive relationship that wasn't going to allow it.
Oh, wow. So
I took a hiatus from rapping for a bit.
Okay, so now what kind of songwriting are you doing?
I still do a lot of hip hop and R&B. I write hooks for other people. I write verses for other people, whatever people need me to do. And oddly enough, I took that hiatus when my brother died. I was like, oh, for sure I'm done. But it was my son that actually told me when he was 2, Mom, you need to go to the studio. And he's the one who pushed me back into music.
That's cool. Put the number up there, Chris, and give me a dog catcher out there because there's a howling dog out there. Hey, but it is getting closer to Halloween. Mm-hmm. Watch. It is, huh? I've never heard that guy before, man.
Oh, maybe it's like a setup?
I don't know. Go up there and say, shut up! So, is this the only book you've written so far?
So far. And a lot of people want to see me write another one just like this. But the thing where I messed up, but I'm not mad about it, is I brought them into their end of their lives. So I'd probably have to bring in another book with new characters.
Okay. How long did it take you to write that one?
I started this in 2012, put it to sleep for a while, and then I completed it in 2020 because I did all the editing. I'm cheap that way. That's why I mix my own music because I'm like single mom. Got to do what I got to do.
But when it's kind of not weird or awkward, but when you say I want to do a cowboy song, isn't that supposed to be the enemies right there?
Well, oddly enough, don't you know that vaqueros are traditionally our peoples?
Well, yeah, originally.
So,
but the widows took it over, huh?
Yeah. So even when you think about the twangs, whether it's rock music, blues music, country music, Native peoples, whether from this side of the border or the other side, all contributed to those styles and those genres. And a lot of people who, we recognize the black people who originated these styles. A lot of those black people were mixed black and Native.
Caller, who's this?
Hey, see what's going on? This is Lucky Local, man. I really appreciate you having a Native American on your host, bro. I've been a long-time follower, and you donated to the A&B Native American cuisine to feed the homeless last year. I don't know if you remember that.
I do remember that, brother. Hey, thank you for calling in, man. What's going on? You got a question?
No, I just want to give a shout out, man. I really appreciate having the Native American host on there. Hopefully caught late on, but subjects of missing and murdered Indigenous women, and I just really appreciate you having a host like that on.
For sure, my man. Thank you for calling and supporting.
I wish, Coneja. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. Yep.
And that was actually I've been wanting to bring a Native American in here, and we've talked about it a while back during our arguments, during the family parties. And I want to get, your guys' side of the story, your guys' side of, of life. And like we were talking before we got on air, I'd also offer you the platform. If you got time, you want to come in here and do the Native American thing with other natives or whatever it is and just speak on things that pertain to the native life and all that, because you guys don't really have that that much. I mean, you got Instagram and all that, but I've yet to really see, and I'm sure there is some out there on YouTube, but they're probably smaller channels. But to me, it'd be great to have you that way you can have gentlemen like that and see it all. Let's see, we got Juan Gonzalez. It's the Mad Spirits and Sisters. That's it.
He's the one that's so mad about natives being mean to him, huh?
And he
What did you do, Juan? What did you do?
Juan is actually the mean guy to the natives, and he's the other way around. But no, but it's dope, dude. It's dope to actually have you come in here and speak about your life, your journey. So, what are you trying to do? Like in the next 10 years or so? What are the goals here that are set for you?
I want to sell 40 million copies of Sisterhood and retire. I really want to focus. I do want this to be able to pay the bills,
Of course.
But I really want to focus on the community as much as possible, which is why I work for the organization that I work for. It's an environmental justice organization. We know that things aren't going to get back to the, exactly what it was in the past, but if we can bring that river back to being a naturalized river, the Los Angeles River, the Paime Pahait, the traditional name.
How do you say it?
Paime.
Paime.
Pahait.
Hait. Okay.
So if we could bring that back to its natural state, right? If we can have enough land that we can practice our traditional burnings and show people how fire is actually good, not bad, and help people to understand why we see it as bad is actually because of colonization, right? Because they're the ones who took us away from doing it. And then you go and you see everything is just rampant, growing weeds, just disgusting. And there's nobody there to love and tend to the land anymore. So if we can get back to just bits and pieces of that and make sure that there's safety in our Native community, which we lack greatly, we're left out of the equation often. In fact, the news calls us like others and different names for us, right? Like we're not even noticed on our own ancestral lands. So I guess just having that recognition and safe space is my goal.
Yeah, you guys have one of the worst lack of representation. I mean, just across the board, doesn't it? Whether it's Hollywood, music, politics, there's zero representation.
And we do have to understand where that narrative actually came from, was from America themselves. It's part of the genocide, right? Is if we can't erase them all physically, then let's erase them through our narrative. And so even, when everybody hears LA, but nobody's ever heard of my nation, which is native to here, we don't have a reservation. We don't have any of, we don't have federal recognition. And why is this? It's because we have prime realty. So if we have everything they want, why would they want to acknowledge us and give us a piece of? Because they're craving to just take and take and take. So why share with who they're stealing it from?
Yeah, if they don't have any kind of pushback or any incentive to give it back at this point, it's very tough to sit there.
Right.
Now, what's one of the biggest concerns in the Native American community?
I mean, there's so many. There's a lot of trauma that has not been healed, right? I think that's what a lot of the stuff stems from. There's the lack of recognition, right? So when we talk about FedRec versus non-FedRec, I'm non-federally recognized, and some federally recognized natives would say, then you're not native, right? But that's a whole colonized mindset. So there's people still fighting for that recognition in hopes to gain land back or just to be treated as, decent human being, because for some reason that recognition, and of course, like our brother said, the MMIW, the Murdered and Missing Indigenous Women, and who I have fallen under that bracket, there's a lot, again, trauma, right? And so there's a lot of abuse that's happening. And because of the sexualization of Native women, which has transpired since the beginning of colonization, it's why we stopped having our coming of age ceremonies too, right? Wow. Because the white men would be like, they're having their ceremony, it's time, right? And there's just a whole number to it. But it's transpired into today where, all of these big major oil lines that we're fighting, they're out in certain areas where these men can't go home, right? And so they're in these camps. And so what do? They're men. They're craving, some kind of affection or whatever. So they go find these Native women, and then they rape them, and oftentimes they'll murder them so that they don't get convicted. And if that happens off the reservation, then it's, they can. If it happens on the reservation, there's actually, believe it or not, there's laws to protect them that haven't turned in the natives' favor, is that you could basically go on a reservation and do horrible things, horrible acts, and not get reprimanded for it.
Yeah, I think most of America is really like desensitized when it comes to Native Americans. To be completely honest with you, like when you see the pipelines being put through native lands and they're fighting them, people are like, so what? What's the problem?
Yeah. There was a great video that some folks made, and they basically went into a white area and was like, yeah, so the government hired us and we chose this city. And they're like, what? And so they, you know, they're coming out of the church, the white people coming out of the church, and these native guys are carrying the casket, and they're like, oh, and they're like dropping the casket. And it's obviously all fake. And then they pull these people into the city hall after and was like, how did you feel? This and that. And they're like, but just so you know, this is actually our real life. Like, haha, joke for you guys, but this is our real life. This is what we experience on a daily, and it's harmful.
Yeah, and I think that's that. Let me get this phone cover.
Okay.
Quick. Let's see what they got. Caller, who's this?
Pistolas.
What's happening? Hold on.
What's up, brother? I wanted to ask Jessa, since you have her there.
Okay.
Why did she try to cancel the LA Natives podcast and the LA Natives show? What drove her?
So there's
to, like,
actually a
call the
podcast, because this man has been very, very ugly to me. He said some horrible, horrible things. So yeah.
So go ahead and answer.
So there's a podcast with the LA Natives that, you know, I actually participated in. He can go watch that, which I know he already did. So.
Oh, so that's see, even the natives have beefs. See?
Well, so this is a little bit different, but it's already been a discussion that's been handled. We've talked about
There's no need to reignite the whole thing over, is what you're saying.
Yeah, but there will be people like him that continue to, you know,
that's
try to stir the pot.
That's all the time. Yeah, that's all the time. That's just the way it is. But you know, at least he didn't. He probably may have started. I saw him in the comment section trying to get in there, but that's all the time. So, but that's
yeah.
You know,
as soon as I heard his name, I was like,
you know how to answer these questions already,
okay.
huh?
You got to deal with it. You know, they're there.
Now, how or will America ever make it right with the Native Americans? Because with African Americans, the only way I think they will say they will ever make it right is if you give reparations to the majority, whoever can get their lineage all the way from when they were slaves, right? Now, is the Native American on that same path, you would think, or is there something different, or is this, it'll never be right?
You know, I really couldn't answer that question for
yourself.
everybody.
No, for yourself. Yeah. And I noticed you have to say that all the time, because you'll get 10,000 other natives. No, that's not. And I understand that.
You know, we're all raised different in our communities, you know, yeah. But in my belief, I think the moment it happens for the Black folk, because they always take the lead, then there's probably a small percentage of a chance that something good can come out of it for us.
Yeah, but I doubt it very much.
But
it's
you know,
be very tough.
I don't expect it from America as an entity, as a government.
Right.
Who I have more hope and faith in is community, right? So when white folks are wanting to be in community with us and we're gaining relationships with non-native folks, I think that's where the good is going to come.
Do you think that a lot of the like casinos going up in Indian tribal lands and all that is a good thing for?
Pros and cons.
Pros and
cons.
What the pros, obviously, the money.
Yeah, and now, as of today, in order for you to receive that monies when you turn 18, you have to take financial classes, which I am very grateful for.
Okay, let's see what you got.
Okay.
Caller, who's this? Hello. Yes, sir. Talk to us.
Yeah, what's up, American Cholo? Hello, Jessa. First time calling to your show.
Very cool. Thank you.
Want to ask, have you guys heard of the new movie coming out by Martin Scorsese about Native American injustice in Oklahoma called Killers of the Flower Moon?
Yes, they
coming
just
out
premiered.
this Friday.
Yeah, they just had a native premiere yesterday, and then it'll be coming out on Friday.
I read the book. It's a horrible story, but I think it needs to be told.
Right.
Because what happened to them was pretty disgusting. Like, it's kind of like a wolf in sheep's clothing.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, so just wanted to share that, you know.
Thank
For sure.
you.
Thank you,
Go
brother.
and check that out.
Thank you
I appreciate
so
the
much.
phone call, and I'll call you for some granite tops.
And once again, you know, like
For sure.
that's their
Thank you,
story,
brother.
not ours, right? But
And whose
all
is
of
it?
our stories need to be told. So that's a story that takes place in Oklahoma, and I can't tell it well, so I do request, you know, everybody go watch it because Native people back that movie.
The thing is, you need movies like that because then that's when regular American people actually start seeing us saying, "Oh, this is why they're so upset." Because a lot of times people are like, they will. "Ah, you're just whining.
Right.
Get over it. That was 500 years or
Right.
whatever it is." But when you start seeing that kind of movie, because till this day, and it's horrible stuff that happened during World War II, they'll bring it up 50 years ago, but stuff like that was happening to the rest of skin-colored people for
Right.
hundreds of years. But
Absolutely.
But to me, it's like this. It's almost like, and I don't think it's almost like it is. They will, like the media and everybody else, they will definitely give more care, more attention to, let's say, a white baby being murdered and killed,
Absolutely.
and a brown baby being murdered and
Right.
killed.
And you know what? It's also important to tell our stories of modern day, right? So I'm going to put a little plug. Woman Who Blooms at Night is a movie that I'm in, and it's a short 30-minute film. And that's going to be screening for the first time November 17th. It's on a Thursday out here in LA at LA Skins Fest.
Okay.
But so Sisterhood, Woman Who Blooms at Night, these are about women of today who are indigenous, you know? So it's telling our story as one of those, we're still here and we're still dealing with the BS in our own way of modern day society.
That's what I'm talking about. And where can people see it?
So hopefully we'll be, you know, traveling around and getting into the festivals as they come. And so the first festival we were able to get into is called LA Skins Fest. So laskinsfest.com, I believe. You can find them on Instagram and you can click the link in their bio and then just buy your tickets. So on the Thursday of that week, it's the third week in November, we're going to be screening.
Very cool. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
So now, with that being said, Jessa, I want to thank you so much for coming on. And like I said before, I give you an open invite to come on the show.
Thank
Do
you.
your own thing when you want to. Just, you know, let me know ahead of time. Look at the camera over there. Let people know where they can send you that hate mail. And then,
You already know where because y'all still hitting me up, even when you're blocked.
and go ahead and, you know, plug the book and plug your Instagram and everything else.
Okay. Mi hija, everybody, Jessa Calderon, JessaCalderon.com. You can find my music anywhere that you listen to music. Jessa Calderon, the book Sisterhood by Jessa Calderon, or follow me on social media platforms under Jessa_songwriter1.
And there you go. And thank you guys for tapping in with us, bringing us into your home, into your car, into your life.
Thank you.
Other than that, we will be dropping the Sleepy Malo interview this Friday for members only. You guys already got it. Appreciate you guys. If you guys got anything out of this video, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. With that, we're out, people.
Much love, fam.
All right.
Thank you. That went fast.